Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you're as excited as I am. It's Wireless Tuesday. Wireless Tuesday is a monthly podcast that revolves around Cisco wireless LAN and related technologies. It's a way for me and my colleagues on the Cisco Global Wireless team to give back to the community that's given us so much. My name is Jason Grant, and I'm your host. Let's get it going. It's Wireless Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining me today. We've got an exciting show for you. A few things going on for you this Wireless Tuesday. First, we're going to hear from Cisco Product Management on an exciting new product called DNA Wireless Assurance. And then we'll hear from friend of the show, Stephen Orr, chairperson of the Wi-Fi Alliance Security Workgroup, who will chat with us about WPA3 and its implications. Let's get going. In this first segment, we'll be talking about a product that was just launched at Cisco Live. Maybe you heard about it, maybe on social media, or maybe you're lucky enough to be there in person. I'm talking about Cisco's Wireless Assurance, and I'm honored to have as my first guest, Taranpreet Kohli, who goes by TP. TP, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jason. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, and good afternoon and good evening to those of you who are not on the west coast of the United States. Hey, TP, tell me, what was your role in bringing this product to market?
Oh, absolutely. As you know, Jason, I've been the product manager for DNA Wireless Assurance, and it's been a fabulous journey, a long one, but a really exciting one. DNA Wireless Assurance is a product that's an integral component of our DNA center strategy, and it's one of the critical components of our overall intent-based networking and network intuitive campaign that at Cisco we are running for the last few months. As I said, it's been a journey for the last 12 to 18 months, and we are really excited that we have the first version of our product shipping with this Cisco Live at Barcelona. So I'm really excited to talk good things about the product today and also share a little bit about the product through a live demo.
That's awesome. Thanks. You know, some of my audience knows this already, but my experience with network management began way back with like Cisco Works and WhatsUp Gold and OpenView, MRTG, which later became PRTG, or really kind of complemented. Anyway, as a whole, it always seems to be that network management is an afterthought. And a lot of times it focuses on what's up and what's down. From your vantage, how's the function of network management changed over the last several years?
Oh, absolutely. I think the first thing that you would acknowledge in a few weeks from today is that people would start using terms like DNA automation and DNA assurance instead of network management. But I think the fundamental shift that's happening in the market for the last few years is that as the networks are becoming more and more robust, as deployments and architectures are becoming standardized, and we at Cisco are doing a pioneer job in ensuring they're becoming standardized. Customers like to keep their networks super simple. However, what's really happening in the world of Wi-Fi is that the density of clients is increasing at a rapid rate. We have trends like VoIP calling and enterprise video applications at an all-time high. BYOD trends and IoT trends are now serious realities, and the guest network is ever expanding. So with all that context, right, I think the focus for our wireless customers, our wireless engineers, is shifting from network management to more of network monitoring and troubleshooting, because at the end of the day, what's really important for our customers is to have a super good client experience, and I think that's why network monitoring and network troubleshooting is becoming really critical.
I totally agree. And take wireless, for example. Let's say there's a wireless issue, and of course the help desk gets the call that the network is down, right? And of course it's always someone important that calls in. The problem is maybe bad roving or a coverage hole, and it's one of those issues that you almost need to be there in person when it happens to diagnose it. I mean, it could be a driver problem. It could be coverage. It could be misconfiguration, any number of things. It causes users to get pretty crabby pretty quickly. How would assurance help in this situation?
Well, yeah, Jason, clearly you've done your job for the day, right? I think you've kind of highlighted probably the most critical or complex issues which some of the customers today on the call would agree they face significant problems in trying to troubleshoot. And most of the time, they try to send those sniffers to customer sites, trying to recreate some of these issues. Issues like sticky client, ping pong, or other roaming failures. They're extremely transient in nature, and a lot of times it's very hard for customers to recreate these issues, even if they have very advanced troubleshooting toolkits. So really, with the DNA assurance, I think we are acknowledging this fact that it's very important for us to build an intelligent analytic platform, that gathers the right data with the right context from disparate data sources. We have close to 12 to 16 different types of data sources from where we are getting this contextual telemetry. And then really having a real-time Wi-Fi analytics built on top of it to provide those actionable insights, which no longer would require some of our customers, senior wireless engineers to be on site trying to recreate those issues, and be really empowering some of their L1 support desk personnel to try and solve some of those issues on their own by providing, as I said, very actionable insights.
Oh, that sounds great. Now, what would be the typical business impact of a customer who has assurance?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, let's look at these two examples, right? I mean, if I can solve 20 to 30% issues like roaming failures, onboarding failures, poor RF issues, coverage holes, etc., and my customers don't need to send wireless engineers or senior wireless engineers on site to create and troubleshoot these issues, I think I would have a serious contribution in reducing their OPEX and reducing the overall turnaround time for solving some of the client issues. The second thing I would say is if I can build, as I said, an intelligent platform that provides those actionable insights in terms of issues with guided remediations and suggested actions to our support desk, then a lot of those issues will not get escalated to our L2 and L3s, and those guys are precious jewels, right? If they don't have to worry about troubleshooting and solving daily issues, they can focus their energies on providing better client experience for the overall network. And I think most of the customers today on the panel may agree with what I'm saying.
Yeah, it makes sense. I heard earlier that you came prepared to maybe show a demonstration.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we have done a lot of talking. I think we should make it a little real for our customers. It's early morning.
Well, absolutely. While you're bringing up that demo, let me tell you what I think I just heard, because there's a couple of things I wanted to take away. Because of the analytical engine within DNA Assurance, we don't necessarily need to be there, because various elements in the network, including client devices and network devices, they act as sensors, right? So as a network admin, because of that, I'm always in the right place at the right time and with the right information I need to take the right action. Is that kind of correct?
Impressive, Jason. I think you're really helping me summarize some of the context that I want to share. I think you touched upon everything as a sensor, right? I think that's something which I really want our audience to take away today. At Cisco, we enjoy significant market share, not only in the wireless business, but also across other networking businesses like switching, routing, and IoT. I think what's very important for us to share today is that all of these devices provide that contextual telemetry or real-time telemetry to our analytics platform, and that's really is the heart of our product. No longer are we relying on those syslogs and SNMP ways of really generating the right data. We have the contextual data coming from disparate data sources, and that's what we really mean by everything as a sensor. Awesome. So Jason, if you're all set, why don't I hit the demo for the next few minutes and make this all real?
Please, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. I assume some of the audience might have seen this screen. Some of you might have gone through an SDA demo before. So this really is the center point from where all the action begins. So this is where you go for looking at any applications within the DNS center. We are talking about assurance today, so that's where I'm going to focus on. As Jason touched upon, that the whole assurance platform is built around the ethos of trying to isolate the problem at the right place, with the right data at the right time, and with all that, generating actionable insights and providing you the right action. So please remember, right place, right time, and right action is really the theme of assurance, and that's what I'm going to show you in the next few minutes. So starting off, the whole thought of right place, I want to show you a brand new capability called Event Viewer. Event Viewer provides, as I said, contextual telemetry, and it shows about 240 plus client onboarding and roaming failure-related events that you can see on the left side of your screen. These are all your events that are related to association, authentication, and so on. And all these events, as I was sharing earlier, is real-time in nature. So as and when there are failures happening on the network, you through the event viewer can actually go and see the details of these failures, and all this is real time, by the way. So you can see that the failure event actually got generated at 8:27, and this information is updated as late as at 8:45, and it's 8:47 right now. On the right side, you also see that we're trying to correlate some of these failures in the event viewer with real-time client location tracking. So really, for instance, if let's say you're having roaming failures due to poor RF and you want to see exactly the location of the client, you can see that location on this map on the right side. And being a wireless engineer, being an expert that you are, if you want to further troubleshoot as to why some of these failures are happening, we also have this visualization tool of what we call packet analyzer that can actually allow you to pinpoint where the exact failure is happening. So you can see I'm trying to point at packet number 57 and says the failure really is happening because of deauthentication. So that really is all about the event viewer. Let me go on to the next topic called Apple iOS Analytics. It's again part of the theme called right place, trying to isolate the problem from where it's starting. As you know, we have a unique partnership with Apple, and that partnership allows us to have some of the data coming from the Apple for its iOS clients. No other competitor or vendor in the market has access to this data. And what does this data provide? Well, it truly provides us a client perspective of the RF network. I mean, a lot of competitors or vendors will talk about the RF network perspective, but most of that perspective is always from the access points. Very rarely you can get a client perspective. And I'm sure all of you agree, it really is the client perspective of the RF network that matters than anything else. So as you can see on the left side, we have this iOS client, and we have this concept of neighbor map, which allows us to view the neighboring APs from a client perspective and what's the kind of RSSI and SNR coverage we are receiving. Apple also shares us some of the failures or error codes that may happen with some of our iOS clients in terms of disassociation failures or deauthentication failures. So a lot of those failures, you can see it on the right side. We have the same client. It's showing the reason for dissociation, and it's also showing the location of the AP from where that client is trying to connect or is getting disassociated. So moving on to the third topic, as part of the theme called Everything is a Sensor, I touched upon the fact that DNA assurance is not all about wireless infrastructure, your access points and controllers. It's also about getting that contextual data or contextual telemetry from other devices like your switches and your routers. So as you can see, I'm showing the screen, which is part of our overall dashboard. It shows the health of my network. As I go down, you can see that I'm able to see the performance of all my network infrastructure, not only my wireless infrastructure, but my switching and routing infrastructure. At this point in time, you can see it for the last 15 minutes and 24 hours. But if you want to see it for a longer period of time, you can always go and change it to 14 days, and you can get the data for last 14 days. You can also see the same performance across different sites. So if I just glance here, let's say you're a global company, you have multiple sites across the globe, you have few in North America, you have few in other parts of the world. You can see the performance of your network across different geographies. The other thing that I want to touch upon on this screen is this whole concept of network health. I think with DNA assurance, what we are acknowledging is that the health of the network is dependent on multiple KPIs. And most of the traditional network monitoring tools in the market actually show all those KPIs on a dashboard, and sometimes it becomes really overwhelming for our customers to really make sense out of it. So with assurance, we are trying to abstract and simplify some of this information. And the way we are doing that is that we have this 1-point score that you can look at to see the health of your network, and that's what we call the health score. Awesome. I think with that we cover the first aspect of our DNA assurance, which is what we call the right place. Providing you the right data that allows you to isolate the problem at the place. Moving on to the right time. The first thing I really want to show you is this whole concept of network time travel. So going on to the client health dashboard, I see that my wireless network health is a little patchy. I can see that there are a few clients which are not performing as per our expectations. So what do? I want to see some of these clients who are really not performing well. So I go down, and here I go. I see a lot of clients who are not performing well, and one of them is this PC that we have, which has a health score of 1. So I'm really curious as a network administrator to see what's happening with this guy. So therefore, I go to the screen, and I want to see this client. Why is the performance or the health of this client not very good? And as I can see, with network time travel, I can go and see the performance of this client, not only for last 24 hours, which you see on your screen right now, but I can go and I can make it to last 7 days as well. So really, it provides you that historical context of why your client is not doing well. So if I really kind of scroll through some of the screen, oh wow, the client is doing really well at this point in time, and it has very good RSSI and SNR. But if I just go here and see why the health score is so low, and a couple of reasons that I can point at is that the RSSI or SNR coverage is not very good. Now, with that kind of historical context, I know that the client is probably not doing well. With the right place at the right time, I also promise that we'll generate some actionable insights for your support desk, right? So that they can take some actions on why this client is not doing well. So to help you do that with our product, you just go down and we see this whole summary of issues. As you can see, this is all plain English, and the issues are spread across multiple categories. We have this concept of issue catalog, where we are trying to solve more than 65 plus wireless issues across client onboarding, client RF experience, network coverage and capacity, application experience, and so on. And a lot of those issues you can see on your screen. This is live site, guys. You can see all the issues that this client has been facing for the last few hours. So let me actually take an example of one or two of these issues, which we are seeing on the screen right now. Let me start with this wireless client taking a long time to connect, and the reason is it's because of some RF issues. So I go here, as I promised, it's all English so that your support desk can understand. The first thing it shows is this concept of event viewer, which I showed you at the outset. And we see here that actually there's a failure happening because of four-way key timeout, and it's actually showing all the details here. The next thing that we can see here is the average onboarding time. So that's the issue. It's taking a long time to connect. And the current threshold that we have kept for onboarding is around 10 seconds. But we are actually doing dynamic baselining for this. So over a period of time, we will average out the right onboarding time for this client and then baseline it against that. And the last aspect that I want to show on this screen is, okay, the support desk understands there's an issue. He now wants to take certain actions, and we want to make those actions so simple for a support desk. And this is where you go. As you can see, it says check whether the client moved during the authentication phase, check for a recent OS update, and so on and so forth. So really, the concept that we're trying to hit upon here is that with all the data that we're generating from wireless infrastructure, our switches, our routers, we are providing you the right context and, more importantly, the right actionable insights for some of your support desks to take actions upon. The next thing that I really want to show you as part of this right time is this concept of sensors. Earlier on, we touched upon this concept of providing you a proactive troubleshooting tool that you can use to troubleshoot the performance of your network, whether it's with respect to client onboarding or it's with respect to your network services. So in DNA assurance, we have this concept of sensors that you can deploy in your network. I'll just log into the screen as it got logged out. And really what the sensor does is it allows you sitting miles away from the actual site, go and configure and simulate the client experience of one of your sites. Let's say you're sitting in Chicago and you want to troubleshoot the performance of your client experience in Singapore. Well, you can do it sitting on DNA Assurance. You can go to this tab called Manage, and you can click on Sensor Driven Test. And as you go there, it allows you, as I said, to create certain sensor tests. It also gives you this sensor dashboard experience, which provides you visibility on some of the tests that you've run in the past. So as you can see, I had run a test in this building 4 in San Jose campus, and I see that my onboarding test experience is slightly patchy. Although it clears the test, but sometimes maybe it's taking a little longer to onboard, and that's why probably the test is failing. So that's the level of granularity that we provide with this module called Sensor. And the other interesting thing that we do with Sensor is, as and when these failures are happening, even though they are simulated, that's actually true for your network, right? So when these failures happen, we also create those failures as issues and provide you as part of the issue catalog so that your support desk can go and take action on those issues. The last thing maybe that I want to show you as part of the sensor is this whole concept of trying to create a test. So let's say I want to create a test for network services. Let's say this is for DNS. I want to add a location. I select a location. I want to do it for, let's say, every 1 hour. And I say next. Oops, I need to select the SSID, of course. It does, it allows me to select the SSID and the band. And once we do that, boom, there you go. You have created an active sensor test for you to troubleshoot the performance of your DNS services for that particular site or campus. Well, with that, I come to a close of the right time. Let me very quickly go through the last part of the demo, which is on taking actionable insights. I think I did touch upon the issues, but let me show you that with DNA assurance, we have this expanded list of issue catalog. As I said, we have close to 65 plus issues that we're generating on our platform. You can see all these issues on the screen right now. We have issues pertaining to onboarding, connectivity, device issues for your controllers and access points, application issues, and as I said, we're also creating issues for some of the sensitive failures. So really, it's really providing you that platform where some of the support desks can go and read these issues and either take actions or create tickets for those issues. The last thing that I really want to show you as part of this issues is this whole concept of cloud analytics. So with DNA assurance going forward, what we are doing is we are taking all this contextual telemetry from our network infrastructure, and we are doing historical and dynamic baselining. So let's say if there is a radio throughput issue, I really want to baseline that against an average throughput for a period of time. So what you see on the screen right now are these green zones, which are healthy zones, which are typically the zones in which your throughput should be. But if the throughput is below that, then you know, okay, there's some issue. And what we are doing is we are trying to correlate that with some of the other common traits or KPIs that might be related to that particular issue. And that's what we are trying to show on the screen. So with radio throughput, the issue could be because of interference, it could be because of packet retries, it could also be because of high density of client count. So really, I think going forward, we will be investing a lot on this aspect of our product where with all the historical context and data, we'll try to generate dynamic baselining for some of our issues. Well, with that, I come to a close of the DNA assurance demo. This was a really quick demo. If you have any more questions, you can obviously reach out to me directly. We can have a deeper engagement with you or your customer, and we can run you through a much longer demo as well.
That was great. I really appreciate it. It really shows how the role of network management is evolving, and maybe just like the name implies, it really is wireless assurance. So I have just a couple of follow-up questions. We just have a little bit of time left in the segment. We've been talking a lot and spending a lot of time lately about SDA and fabric-enabled access. It paints kind of a pretty picture for those customers who are starting fresh. And those customers will probably and likely include the DNA Center appliance. What kind of hardware licenses are they going to need to add to get to this assurance functionality, those that are starting fresh?
Oh, excellent question, Jason. I think there are two ways to look at it. The first is if customers have already bought onto the journey of SDA and they already have a DNA Center appliance, then that's great news. If they have the appliance, they don't need any new appliance for running assurance. All they need is a DNA Advantage license or a Cisco Advantage license, and boom, they can start using assurance ASAP. The other thing is assurance is for both brownfield and greenfield. So you don't need to upgrade your wireless hardware infrastructure, your access points, or your controllers. All you need is you need to be on 8.5 MR release, which is the best-in-class release, the most stable release for assurance.
Yeah, makes sense. And it seems like a great value. How about for those customers who have been really good, loyal Cisco wireless customers who might want to use assurance? Some have licensed components individually. Some have used Cisco One Foundation. What do they need to take advantage of it?
Yeah, that's a very, very fair question. So look, Jason, I think there are N number of permutations and combinations that we will have in the market with customers having, let's say, Cisco One Foundation or a different license or point product licenses for certain products like Prime. All I can say is all those customers should reach out to their resellers and their account managers. We are working on different programs to ensure that we protect some of the existing investments and make this transition really smooth and successful for our customers. Because one thing we know that from a network monitoring and troubleshooting perspective, DNA assurance is the place to be in. and I'm sure in times to come, all our customers would invest on this product.
That makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that. That's and is it available? Well, like when can we get it? Because this is pretty cool. When is it available?
Oh, it's available right now. With Cisco Live Barcelona that we just concluded, we launched this product. The 1.1 release of this product is available right now. All customers need to do is to talk to their account managers, their partners, and their resellers, and get onto this exciting journey.
Great. Now, and journey, great way to describe it. We're on a journey here. What's the future of assurance?
I think there are two or three categories where we are making significant investments, Jason. I think the first one I touched upon when I was demonstrating that as we get more and more data and contextual data, we want to strengthen our machine learning and cloud analytics as part of our product. Look, there are a lot of vendors in the market, that say that they are the best in class when it comes to machine learning and cloud analytics. But really what they're doing is just correlating a bunch of stats and providing some information. I think we are extremely humble and honest about our product, and we know that this is one aspect where we have started the journey and we want to invest a lot more. The second aspect that I really want to share with our customers today is this whole point of building an ecosystem around assurance. So, pursuing third-party API integrations with some of the key categories like IPAM providers, so partnering with Infoblox and BlueCat, integrating with leading video apps in the enterprise market, such as Skype for Business, and our own homegrown product, Spark and Jabber. And also looking at other integrations like AnyConnect integration for a better client experience. So really, these are the two aspects that we really want to work on in the next couple of quarters and improve our wireless assurance product on DNA Center.
TP, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Congratulations on your product launch. And I look forward to working with customers around the globe with wireless assurance.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As I said, any questions, please shoot across. Any deeper engagements that the customer want to have, we are very happy to get onto a call and make it happen.
Great. Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
In this next segment, I've invited a friend of the show back to chat about a topic that's been buzzing lately, and that is WPA3. My next guest is Stephen Orr. Stephen is the chairperson of the Wi-Fi Alliance Security Work Group, and he's a distinguished engineer here at Cisco. Stephen, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thanks, Jason. Appreciate you having me back. Yeah, I think the last time I was on here we were talking about crack. This time we get to talk about some of the things that have happened since that launch. But I do have to say it's going to be a little bit hard to follow TP with all his cool slides and his demo, considering we're just going to have a conversation about WPA3, and I don't really have anything to demo. So
I'm really excited about what it could be, and want to see customers have it in production. Now, before I get too far with you, Stephen, I want to. I have a question. What's the difference between, like, say, Wi-Fi Alliance and they own the term Wi-Fi, and WPA and the IEEE, who does security work, right? Like 11i.
Yeah, so I mean it's a really great question. So when you start thinking about organizations like the IEEE, IETF, standards-based organizations, they're really working on the development of the standard of the protocols. Where the Wi-Fi Alliance came in originally was under the auspices of actually doing vendor interoperability. So taking what was going on in the standards bodies and making sure that when deployed, station vendors or client vendors and AP vendors would be able to interoperate and provide users a seamless experience. As things have evolved, the Wi-Fi Alliance, which is kind of pretty cool, where they see gaps, they may actually work on some things that take the standards and add some stuff to it to make something better. An original example was WPS. There's some advancements being taken forward from WPS, and you've got Hotspot 2.0 and a bunch of other programs that exist in the Wi-Fi Alliance that are really the culmination of some things that happen in standards some things that they're filling gaps in and making usable products or capabilities for the community.
Yeah, all right, that makes sense. Thanks for that. I've been doing wireless here at Cisco since 2001, and back then I remember you couldn't say Wi-Fi without having this really strong conversation about security. Back then it was WEP, right? Wired Equivalent Privacy. And, it was never intended to be an end-all security measure. It used the RC4 algorithm, which is great. The R is Ron Rivest, who's MIT. It's what we use for SSL, right? It secures everything from my email to my cryptocurrency trading, which if you don't do any, is maybe a good time to start. It's really low, but it's quite volatile. Don't. That's a tangent we won't get in. But I remember I used to tell a story back to my customers back then that at the time, so WEP had just been hacked. There was this paper that was published that described this statistical attack called Fluor-Manton and it would use this statistical attack to derive the key that was used to encrypt a stream of packets. Now, the Samir, right, that is the S in RSA. Manton, he's still one of the world's most respected cryptologists. Now, Scott Fleer, he was still is a Cisco employee, and the paper was published, as the story goes, without Cisco knowing about it. And when it all kind of hit the fan, I heard that Scott's penance was to really kind of help solve the problem, which is how I understand TKIP came to be and what we know as WPA. And of course, then WPA got hacked, which led to WPA2. And, we just talked about WPA2 just got hacked as well. And the sophistication of attacks seemed to increase, as did the creativity of the attack names. What would you say about the evolution of wireless security?
So another good question. So, I would actually say this about any security, not just wireless security. As the attackers gain knowledge, as computational resources become more prevalent, cloud computing, what have you, security, if not strengthened, does not get stronger, right? If you leave security like something like WEP, over time, it's just going to be able to be hacked because resources around it are able to take advantage of it. So, whether it's IPsec, SSL, MACsec, wireless, we're seeing advances in security across the board. In this case, where I actually get to do something is in the Wi-Fi Alliance. We've really we've taken a look back at what worked, what could work better. And, in this new thing we're calling WPA3, we're trying to make something that we can move forward with for the next decade and build on the success that we've had with WPA, WPA2.
And you brought up that the Wi-Fi Alliance again, that security working group. I know you're the chairperson of that. Who's on this team and what do they do?
So we've got a lot of good companies that participate. So in the Wi-Fi Alliance, we have member organizations or member companies. So we have participations from vendors across the board. Cisco, in this case, I have the opportunity to chair the committee. We've got HPE, formerly Aruba. We've got, Ruckus. We've got Aerohive, Intel. So everybody from client vendors to AP vendors. We even have, folks from Cable Labs, Charter. So there's many aspects of participation in the Wi-Fi Alliance. So, my kind of role is I look at myself, and for those of you that do know me, it would be shocking that I am actually the person that tries to build consensus amongst all these different vendors to kind of, marshal everybody forward and really try to get something done for the community.
Great. Now, I know, so your team's working on WPA3, which was quietly announced at CES just a few weeks ago. I would have thought that launching from a stage like CES, you'd get a lot of press. Did you perhaps make the announcement during that power outage?
So one of the things that we wanted to do, CES, so let me step back for a second. So we've been working on this for about 5 years in the Wi-Fi Alliance. Again, a lot of it was assessment, figuring out where we were, where we wanted to go. And, with crack hitting back in the October timeframe, what we looked at is what was the next viable launch event or press event that we could get some word out that, hey, we're coming out with something new. March of 2018, so next month, was always the initial launch date for WPA3. We just used the opportunity at CES to do what they call the soft launch. They didn't want to blindside the press. They wanted to let everybody know that, hey, look, Wi-Fi Alliance is still in the business of working on security. Here's kind of a preview of what we'll be starting certifications on in March.
So, it seems like Wi-Fi Alliance has really been focused on interoperability testing, which tends to follow the standard. In this case, are you developing new technologies that then would become a standard?
So we're following the latest standard that's approved. So we have 802.11/2016. So we're taking a lot of the technologies or capabilities that are in there and really helping define the security story.
Right.
So, if you look at what was WPA2, there's nothing inside of the 802.11/2016 spec that says WPA. It's really the use of multiple things or multiple capabilities that makes something Wi-Fi protected access. So in that case, are we making something new? I think we're just putting together existing technologies to form a brand. In this case, the brand for the Wi-Fi Alliance is WPA.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. So I guess before we get into the what it is, what problems were you trying to solve?
So looking back, again, this was part of what we started doing almost 5 years ago. Is where were we? What problems were customers? And we always try to do an end user enterprise focus. What problems existed then? And also trying to have an eye on what's coming down the line. One of the things that we kind of charted in with what is now called WPA3 is we wanted to make it flexible. We know that if it was going to be static and there was this new brand, and we didn't allow flexibility to add new things over time, it was going to fall into the same vein as WPA or WPA2 is today, where we've got some very set specific things. If you also look at what's happened within the IEEE, if you look at the 802.11/2016 spec, there's multiple AKMs now. There's multiple cipher suites that can be used. So very much like the world of IPsec, where there's a lot of mixing and matching that goes on, most customers, most end users, if I look at this in the context of my mother's not going to know what all the mixing and matching is when she goes to configure her home gateway. She just wants to know it's secure, right? So that's some of the things that we focused on. Another piece was, passwords. WPA2 PSK, the challenge we have there is the password or passphrase is not only used for authentication to the wireless network, it's also used as the genesis of the encryption keys.
Right.
So we wanted to also, kind of move beyond that because, again, as cloud computing resources have grown, I think it's for roughly $5 US. You can take a PCAP of, wireless sessions. You don't even have to be savvy to pull out the four-way handshake. You just grab a PCAP, you upload it, give them a PayPal or your credit card, and they'll ship you back the PSKs for whatever networks that you could have seen with your sniffer.
How convenient.
So it is. So, and if you go one layer down from that, the other thing that we wanted to work on as well was how do we protect people on open wireless networks? So, you can't get rid of open. That's how most people onboard. It's what you see typically if you go to, say, an airport or to your favorite big box store or hardware store. It's an open network where you get to a captive portal. We want to at least provide some type of privacy for when that customer gets on that network to, mitigate some passive eavesdropping. And again, no security solution is perfect. We're just trying to help mitigate some of the initial issues that we've seen in Wi-Fi connections.
So I'd like to get down to brass tacks. I'm not quite sure we say that anymore. Rubber meets the road, or where the buck stops, or don't leave me on read, Stephen. When will we see WPA3 for real, and what kind of gear will support it? So
officially, WPA3 will be launching in the March of this year. Now, when I say March, don't shoot me, don't cast stones. This is the March timeframe, so I believe it's going to be toward the end of March. And what you'll start to see is, in the beginning, it's going to be optional. It'll be an optional certification for vendors to go through. What we're building up to, and again, this goes back to the classic issue of security. We don't want to strand customers. We don't want to have customers that have current gear suddenly instantiate a WPA3 network and then nothing else works. So we have to give some runway to get from where we are today to that next level of security. So what we're looking at doing is having, so 2018 is the launch. In 2020, we're looking at making WPA3 the new baseline certification. So if you bring a new PHY, a new capability to market in March of 2020, around March, you're going to see, WPA3 will be the brand, and then, for backward compatibility, you'll still be able to have, no WPA2 or other things. But what I can assure you, the death of WEP and TKIP is here.
I will gladly attend that wake. And sorry, I was going to go further than that, but how does this play into like 802.11ax?
Yeah. So with 11ax, so what you're looking at is you're starting to see some 11ax products come to market now, right? Those are really early instantiations of 11x. From a Wi-Fi Alliance certification perspective, again, give or take, you're probably looking the end of 2019-ish.
Okay.
To see some 11ax products get certified, get a formal certification. So somewhere around there. So, how's it going to affect 11ax in 2020 when vendors start really ramping up their 11ax certification? The baseline for security will be WPA3 at that point, both personal and enterprise.
Is it likely then that the technology that makes up AX will have the ability to be certifiable? Or they wouldn't come to market with something that wouldn't have the capabilities to do WPA3, would they?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we kind of tread this fine line with security and trying not to be completely disruptive to what's currently deployed. Mm-hmm. So when we started this, we looked at what was available. Most of what occurs for WPA3 is software upgradable. Mm-hmm. From an RF, from a radio perspective. Where we start getting into like a hardware requirement is when we start talking about WPA3 Enterprise, specifically the Suite B aspect, what we did for our government and financial customers and others that have really strong security requirements. Mm-hmm. We use AES GCMP, which is a shift from what we do today in classic Wi-Fi, which is AES CCMP. Not only did we switch from CCMP to GCMP, we also increased the key size from AES 128 to AES 256.
Well, I'm glad that you said that. Actually, a question came in. Will it require support for GCMP?
Yeah. So WPA3 Enterprise, the Suite B aspect will require GCMP hardware capability. Now, again, kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of the certification. Mm-hmm. Again, one of the things that we didn't want to do was cut off vendors that didn't necessarily currently support GCMP in their hardware. So mm-hmm. The Suite B aspect specifically with GCMP is optional. Right. From an enterprise perspective. But if you read the 802.11 spec, AES GCMP 128 and 256, as well as AES 256 CCMP are all viable ciphers within the 802.11 spec.
Got it. Now, so let's just say that I'm excited about WPA3 and I want to learn more about it for whatever reason. I mean, I did a Google search on WPA3 and I saw, I don't know, most of them are blog articles from everything from Network World to Malwarebytes. Yep. Where's a good place where I can go, where I can get, dare I say, definitive information on WPA3 without having to read a protocol specification?
So right now, I would say the best place to learn about anything WPA3 related will be, the Wi-Fi Alliance. They do have a couple, again, they're high-level messages right now because the program hasn't been officially launched. What you'll start to see in March is when we officially launch the program. Like if you were to go to the Wi-Fi Alliance today, you can look up WPA2 and you can see some of the capabilities that are supported on WPA2. When the official launch comes out, you'll be able to see that. And I'm actually right now, I'm working on a kind of a high-level white paper for Cisco on what WPA3 means, as well as a blog post. So I'm hoping to have it done in the next week or two. But I will give you and your listeners exclusive access first. As soon as I finish it, I'll make sure we post it in your Spark room.
I thank you for that. So another big question, what's after WPA3? And I'm going to take a guess. WPA4?
Well, so hopefully not a WPA4 anytime soon.
Okay.
One of the goals that we're trying to look at is with security for the Wi-Fi Alliance, we're looking at almost on an every year to every 2 year basis, looking to kind of add some additional security capabilities. A couple of things that we had tossed around. Everybody has a concept of a priority list. We had a lot of things we wanted to put into the initial launch for WPA3, but you can't kind of throw everything in the kitchen sink the first time. So what we did was we have a bucket list that we're going to also look at to kind of, again, strengthen security overall and move the ball forward. It could be anything from looking at new EAP methods. There's been a lot of EAP methods that have come out, but we don't necessarily address security in EAP methods. We just take them for granted. And this is one of the benefits for enterprise customers. When we start talking, everybody thinks Suite B is just for the government customers. One of the unique aspects with Suite B for the enterprise is we actually have to take into account the security of the EAP method, plus the security of the wireless transport, plus the encryption algorithm to make sure it's one consistent strength across the board. So we really did want to make sure that a customer has assurance that they're operating at a specific security level, from onboarding to authentication to encrypting the data in transit.
Awesome. Hey, I want to kind of take a turn real quick. You have a unique perspective and a ton of experience that, I think is pretty unique. No one else has. I'd love to hear about what motivates you to come into work, or what keeps you up at night. I mean, good or bad. What's on your brain lately?
So, it's things that necessarily we don't pay attention to. All right. So there's, I'll give you the internet part of my perspective. So as a DSE in Cisco, I spend a lot of time in front of customers. I spend a lot of time in front of engineering, and then I spend, time through the Wi-Fi Alliance with, our counterparts from other vendors. Mm-hmm. As we talk to amongst ourselves and with the customers, there's things that we don't necessarily look at deep enough. I mean, some companies may, but when we talk about what really makes up security, I think we're really only at the tip of the iceberg on what we're doing to kind of standardize security. One of the things that we don't test for today is radius, right? In the Wi-Fi Alliance, I'm a big advocate for radius security, or RADSEC. Making sure that change of authorization, username, password, all that stuff is secured end to end. So there's different aspects that I want to focus on. Kind of making sure that security is kind of forefront, because if you don't trust a device, specifically like an access point or those clients, and you're getting telemetry from them, how can you really trust the telemetry that you're receiving that is valid?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm looking at the attendee list that are here on the live recording. And, first of all, thank you, everyone who attends these live recordings. This is great. You're asking some questions that I would not necessarily have thought of to ask myself. So it makes this podcast so much better. But what I'm noticing is that there's a lot of people that I know, a lot of industry veterans, and there's a lot of people that I don't know, and I suspect a lot of them might be new to the industry. Stephen, what advice would you give to someone with maybe a passion for wireless, maybe an interest in doing something new or different, something that would make a difference in the world?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the wireless space. Like you, Jason, I started back in the early 2000s, right, doing wireless in some interesting environments. So you kind of fall into it a little bit. But, like anything else, like routing and switching, telephony, collaboration, the field is so big. What I would say is find a specific aspect of it that interests you or is unique, and you kind of want to dig into that niche. For me, I was doing RF deployments, and then security. I was doing a lot of security with ACS and the like before then. So I kind of fell into the niche of doing wireless security, which really interested me. Coming from a federal background, a lot of my customers were very security conscious. So, get out there, find out what your passion is there, start digging into it. And then one of the things that worked for me too was that kind of stretched my knowledge base was looking at certifications, kind of pushing yourself. I did for internally with the CCIE wireless, doing the CCIE written, CCIE wireless. That kind of expanded my knowledge from just focusing on security to the rest of the things that that are being worked on in the Wi-Fi world. And, don't be afraid to ask. Ask somebody that's out in the industry, if you're looking for things or looking for ways to start or looking for ways to increase knowledge. Mm-hmm. Don't ever be afraid to ask. I would say that's the other thing. That, to be perfectly honest, that's how I ended up on the Wi-Fi Alliance. Nancy Camwingett, who, if you don't know, she's been in the IEEE on the 802.11 working committees. She was doing all the stuff on Wi-Fi security before it became popular. I bumped into Nancy. I asked her what we were doing on the Wi-Fi Alliance, and she was just getting ready to transition off the security working group. And she put, we swapped. So that was my introduction from being a field SE to kind of just jumping in with both feet onto the Wi-Fi Alliance.
Great advice. Stephen, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely, Jason. Anytime. More than happy to come back.
Hey, thank you, Stephen. In fact, I want to thank both of my special guests today. Taranpreet Kohli, hey, TP, thank you so much for coming on today, talking about DNA wireless assurance. And Stephen, love to chat about WPA3. You're a friend of the show. I'd love to have you on again here pretty soon. Thanks again. And thank you, audience, for being so supportive of Wireless Tuesday and Cisco Full Bars. I can't do what I do if it wasn't for you, and I thank you for that. If you have any comments, please keep those comments coming. If you have any ideas for what we should talk about for future episodes, do let me know. Drop me a line. And hey, everybody, happy Wireless Tuesday. This has been a presentation of Cisco's Wireless Tuesday. Be sure to continue the conversation at ciscofullbars.com, and at the top, click on the CFB Spark community. There, you can connect with scores of like-minded wireless LAN professionals. Be sure to subscribe to the Wireless Tuesday podcast using your favorite podcast player, and stay up to date by subscribing to the Wireless Tuesday newsletter at wirelesstuesday.fm. We will see you next month for an exciting episode of Wireless Tuesday.